Hello, my name is William Kumwembe and this is Business Time. It's a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. And coming up in the program today, we look at the practicality of tolling system in the country as the National Road Fund Administration projects that the system could be raking about 4 billion kwacha per annum. And also in the program, commentators continue to speak on the 2021-2022 national budget as presented by Finance Minister Felix Mulusu recently. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned if you could. Hello and welcome in our main story in the program today. Malawi is soon to introduce the road tolling system. Two projects are underway at Kalinyeke in Dedza and of course Chingeni between Balaga and Ncheu. The Roads Fund Administration projects that these two tolling gates would be raking in about 4 billion kwacha per annum. Now, what does the future hold in as far as tolling is concerned in the country being a new phenomenon? This is a question we posed and we have the detail in this report. Driving on the M1 road, about 300 meters from the Chingen road block, going towards Ncheu, you find this signpost, tolling coming soon. It points to this project, the Chingen Tolling Plaza, where there would be a controlled access point for the M1 road. It is a form of road pricing to help recoup the cost of road construction and maintenance. It would be the first of its kind in the country. Another one is being constructed at Kalinyeke in Dedza, according to Masauko Mgwaluko, the Roads Fund Administration publicist.
We have always relied on the fuel levy because the Roads Fund depends on almost 85% of the revenue from the fuel levy. Now, the objective of tolling is to ensure that the money that is being generated from tolling on the stretch of the road, the priority is to allocate the money on the same stretch of the road. So there will be some money also that will be now available. The usual money that we used to apply here from the fuel levy will be now be routed to the other also equally demanding road maintenance needs. The toll gate, the toll plaza is a 5-lane with one abnormal lane and 4 lanes. And what I can say is in future, if we can upgrade it even to RFID, that's radio frequency identification, where you can pay in advance and then you'll be identified here and you pass.
Combined, the two toll gates are expected to be raking in excess of 4 billion kwacha per annum. The revenue is expected to supplement earnings from the fuel levy. Here is where the Chingen Toll Plaza is being constructed, about 300 meters from the Chingen road block. It has 5 lanes, 2 from Lilongwe, 2 from Blanta, and the 5th one is kind of an open lane where either vehicles from Lilongwe or Blanta could pass through. Estimates show that the project is valued at about 4 billion kwacha. The tolling tariffs are yet to be gazetted. Now, Finance Minister Felix Mulusu recently presented to Parliament the 2021-2022 national budget pegged at 1.99 trillion kwacha. There's been mixed views both inside and outside the chamber regarding the 2021-2022 national budget, which is going to be for about 9 months. Recently, the Economics Association of Malawi, ECAMA, hosted a conference where they discussed the budget. Our journalist Chimwemwe Mangazi was there and filed this report.
EGAMA President Lauren Nyasulu says rising public debt remains a major concern as it continues crowding out the private sector. She adds that other measures such as introduction of the duty-free week could affect local production, constrain private sector growth and reduce amount of tax revenue.
Well, I think as an association, we sat down, we felt we needed to provide some feedback to the Minister of Finance after the delivery of the budget statement. And clearly what's coming out is that the ministry has really attempted to put forward some incentives and different provisions to ensure that the economy rebounds. Private sector development has been looked into, and there are a number of incentives there. But at the same time, there's also need to balance on how well we're also investing long-term investments in the country, because the current challenges that we're facing as a country, they require long-term investments that will address the constraints that are there within the economy. So among others, we wanted to make sure that the message has been delivered right in terms of how even the tax incentives that have been provided for in the budget, how they're going to stimulate economic growth, and how these are also going to try to address the issue of inequalities, which is very severe in this country. But at the same time, how does the budget respond to the priorities in the Agenda 2063. So we really wanted to make sure that the sector allocations are responding to the priorities that in the Agenda 2063. We cannot say that with certainty, because one thing that also came out clear if you follow the budget statement was that the country will still face revenue challenges in the short term. So we are not certain as to how we are going to really achieve those revenue targets that have been set, because the government relies on the revenue that is collected for it to be able to invest and spend. So the budget is quite ambitious. There are a lot of measures in there, and we just hope that we attain the growth that has been projected, but we still see some threats there because COVID is still around us. And as we said, the economy is just coming from a crisis situation, which has not entirely cleared. So there are some threats still when it comes to economic growth and even the revenue generation itself.
However, Minister of Finance Felix Mlusu allays fears of a mismatch between the budget and the Malawi 2063.
You know, 2063 is about 43 years, or in fact 42 years now, away. What we have not yet, been able to explain, and that's what I was explaining, this evening, is that our journey towards 2063 has been divided into various milestones that we will be achieving as we go along. So we have divided every 10 years, we'll be looking back and seeing on what we have achieved, during that, 10 years. For example, between now and 2030, we are coming up with a plan which is going to be launched very soon, by the leadership. And come 2030, we want to be at a certain level, and we want to be a lower middle income country. So the foundation we are laying, now, which is also going to help us to reach 2063, we'll be measuring this. So in 2030, we'll measure, have we actually reached the lower middle income, status as a country on what, we set out to do. If not, what happened? Then we're going to be, correcting those things. From there, again, another 10 years to 2040, then another 10 years to 2050, and then 2060, and of course, when we come to 2063, see where we are. 2063, we want to be an upper middle income country, but the steps we'll be taking now, and all the activities, the plans, the programs, we want to achieve the upper middle income country much earlier than 2063. But still our dream is to up to 2063. We do not want to go beyond 2063 without becoming an upper middle-income country. So we cannot say that the strategy or the plans are not aligned to 2063. They are aligned. We are setting the foundations now.
Currently, members of parliament are meeting in cluster committees scrutinizing the 2021-2022 national budget and are expected to resume deliberations of the same in the main chamber from next week.
Remember, this is Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. We'll be right back, and when we get back, we look at the future of agriculture as the sector continues to face a number of bottlenecks. That's when we get back inside Business Time. Welcome back. In a bid to maximize benefits from the African Continental Free Trade Area program, Malawi has since set a strategy aimed at revamping the local private sector to ensure that it remains competitive in as far as doing business is concerned. The validation workshop of the strategy was done in Blantyre on Monday, where our journalist Justin Kweu monitored the trends and has since filed this report.
Speaking during the workshop, the ministry's Director of Trade, Clement Kumbemba, said the strategy outlines markets and opportunities for Malawian products, value chains profitability, bottlenecks and solutions, among others. He added that different ministries, government departments and agencies will also use the strategy to look at how they can address the challenges facing the manufacturing sector.
Issues you're talking about, the bottlenecks, the structural ones, let me say that you're aware that the government, through various strategies, we're addressing those. The issue of energy will soon be a thing of the past because of the many energy projects government has lined up, and some are opening up very soon. The issues of transport connectivity issues are also being addressed by various organs of government. So really, the issue of raw materials, adding value, making sure that we do not only export primary products. The government agenda is that we focus on value addition. So I think it's important that, mind you, we are a global village now, and Malawi cannot operate in isolation. It was important for Malawi to join hands with the rest of Africa. And what is important for us and private sector is to address these bottlenecks. We cannot just sit there and say we have some challenges. No country on earth is without bottlenecks. But I think what is important for us is to join hands in addressing those. And you can appreciate that I think efforts are being done, be it on raw materials or on beneficiation, on addressing the power challenges. So I hope I've answered your question that the strategy basically is an eye-opener. It is a mirror. We see ourselves to say what should we be focusing on as we compete with the 55 countries on the continent.
The AfCFTA is a creation of a market without some taxes for some goods between the 55 African states. Even though Malawi ratified the pact early this year, the Malawi Confederation of Chambers of Commerce and Industry said Malawi stands to benefit less because of challenges such as energy, transport, and a struggling manufacturing sector. UNECA Programs Manager Batanai Chikwene agreed with Kumbemba that Malawi stands to benefit just like any other country because the pact guards against unfair trading practices.
Now, Malawi joined the other 55 African countries in negotiating the AfCFTA, and it was a very challenging process because 55 countries with different interests coming together, trying to agree to one agreement. And the chances that Malawi gets basically arise from looking at what it is that Malawi is good at producing, be it actual goods or services. Once we have identified those products, You then look at the African market. And in this case, Malawi already has access to the SADC market. It already has access to the COMESA market. What the CFTA brings, which it didn't have, is access to the rest of the continent. You now have access through an agreement to the Nigerian market, more than 100 million people. You now have access to the Ethiopian market, again more than 100 million people. Access to the rest of the continent. And for that to work, I think a question has already been asked. How do we make sure that the benefit then actually flows in reality and makes a difference in people's lives? The issue is, let's implement the agreement. And for the agreement to be implemented, the private sector must embrace the opportunity and prepare for the challenges. Yes, when imports start coming, there are possibilities of import surges, but the agreement already takes care of that. In cases where imports arise and there is a case that a lot of unfair trade is happening.
The pact is set to be implemented by countries who have ratified it from July 1, 2021.
Now, in other business news, agriculture sector's contribution to the national economy has by day been dwindling. Of course, there are a number of bottlenecks that the sector has been facing, as attests Henle Msadilomo, who is a SWAP coordinator at the Ministry of Agriculture. I caught up with him and first asked him to say, what are the main challenges the sector is facing and what does the future hold?
Lord, productivity, because we are looking at a situation where farmers have not been able to adopt some of the good agriculture practices that we are promoting as a ministry. And that really contributes to productivity. Apart from that, there's an issue of access to productive resources. We are talking of water because of climate change. We are talking of access to land as a capital investment in terms of agricultural productivity. So these are really some of the bottlenecks, but also we are talking of quality or good technologies. We have technologies like the seed that we have. Yeah, most of the farmers are not able to access good quality seed. An example is legume seed. We talk of groundnuts, talk of soybean, talk of common beans, pigeon peas. We don't have a stable seed system, put in place that is sustainable. Yeah, so the major bottleneck is the early generation seed, and we are talking of availability of breeder seed, but also availability of foundation seed or pre-basic seed. So our colleagues in the Department of Agricultural Research Services are constrained in terms of production of the early generation seed. That's why through projects, like SAP and many other projects that the ministry is implementing, there is that appetite, to contribute to a stable seed system in the country. Because without breeder seed, farmers, we should forget about increasing productivity, because there won't be any access to increased or improved seed. Currently, I can say we have the future because we have instruments now in place. I did mention about the National Agriculture Investment Plan, which is a framework for the investments in the agriculture sector. What we have in the investment plan is a kind of environment that government has put in place for stakeholders to be able to bring in interventions that are going to address the bottlenecks. So as of now, that's why you see appetite from donors like IFAD, AGRA, coming in to address the issue of sustaining the seed systems in the country. This is coming from the background of the policy, the National Agriculture Policy that ministry is using, but also this enabling environment through the National Agriculture Investment Plan that is there. It's work in progress, I can say. I don't want to say that as of now we are there, no. There are still some gaps. It's work in progress, but the future is bright. We see in the next 2-3 years, I think, having a stable legume seed system.
Well, that interview also brings us to the end of today's edition of the program Business Time, a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories that are making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, my name is William Kumwembe. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, then it doesn't make sense. Stay safe and bye for now.